And I should point out that we will be speaking about Saudi Arabia's latest moves in the oil markets later in the programme. But let's talk a bit more about the prospect of a normalisation between Saudi Arabia and Israel, something we have touched on many times before here on this programme. Ruth Wasserman Lande is a former member of the Knesset. She's also the former co-chair of the Abraham Accords caucus as well. Great to have you with us, Ruth. So are you encouraged by those comments by Antony Blinken, or is it just more of the same from the Biden administration?
I think that a comment like that is not more of the same. Certainly, we should not expect normalization, a warm normalization, to suddenly erupt the day after tomorrow. It is a process and not an easy one. I would even dare say that it may be the most challenging one amidst all the countries in the region with Israel. But the fact that he does take the time to say this again prior to his trip to Saudi Arabia is not a given, in my humble opinion, not to be taken for granted. And certainly, I think he expects those people in the audience and in the Jewish arena who have clout, who have influence, who care for the situation, to also give a kind of support or a kind of shoulder to this very significant effort and attempt by the Biden administration to gain some kind of a movement forward with the normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. I don't think that it is just another statement, but a significant one. Does it mean that we'll have a peace tomorrow? Unfortunately, Laura, not yet, not just yet.
Well, Ruth, you're a diplomat. I mean, in diplomatic terms, do you think that the Americans and the Israelis have been going about this all wrong, talking so much about how they want to secure normalization between Riyadh and Jerusalem, without focusing on the fact that Saudi Arabia also wants something from both the Israelis and the Americans, namely to contain Iran and its nuclear ambitions? Is that being left aside in all of this?
I'm not 100% sure that it's being left aside. First of all, I don't have access to the exact words that are being said behind closed doors, neither between Israel and Saudi Arabia via a third actor, of course, nor between the American delegation and the Saudi leadership. I truly have difficulty in believing that Iran is not a topic which is discussed between those leaders. In fact, all three have significant interest. By the way, Blinken also mentioned something very interesting regarding Iran. Not that that's any different than before, but he stressed that if Iran is not willing to participate in any of the diplomatic paths open to it vis-a-vis the United States, then the United States stands by its promise, its declaration that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Whether the United States will or will not is a different thing, but there is clout and weight to such statements. And again, this is a moment before his trip to Saudi Arabia. So those things do add up. Undoubtedly, the leaders will talk about Iran. It's just that the Iranian issue probably will not be in the declarative section given to the international media.
And Ruth, the Saudis have always been consistent. They want to see a Palestinian state before they normalize with Israel. No signs that they've moved away from that. Blinken said today he wants the Israelis to halt settlement expansion, given the position of the current Israeli government. Any chance of that happening? Can all these demands be met?
It doesn't look like it, does it, Laura? It's very pessimistic on that front. It's one of the most, no, actually, it's not one of the most, it's the most right-wing coalition that ever existed in Israel. And yet, it seems as if in certain circumstances, and again, this is my analysis, understanding the political situation within Israel and the geostrategy and the added value of something so sought after as an Israeli-Saudi peace agreement without I hope, appearing too naive and too optimistic, that in certain circumstances, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, may take significant steps, difficult as it may be for him politically, regarding the Palestinian arena, even though there will need to be somebody on the other side to accept this particular step.
Ruth, thank you very much. Ruth Wasserman, Lande, and we will see what comes out of that meeting between Antony Blinken and the Saudi officials later this week. But now